A lot of these primetime games are duds. This was not one of them. It wasn't the most riveting game throughout, but in the end, it's all about the finish, and Kirk Cousins conducting a dramatic, picture-perfect, last-minute drive for Atlanta and capped it off with a 7-yard pass and catch to Drake London with 34 seconds left, and the Falcons get a flabbergasting 22-21 win with the point-after touchdown as they take down the Eagles. They took them down. All right, so let us discuss the question. Did the Kirk Cousins Falcons win the game, or was it a story of Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and the Eagles losing said game? So I've got Candyman, Cry Uncle, and Horseplay. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a tasty cake, which tasted a little better on the way back to that great airport in Atlanta for the Falcons. So, the arrow on this one, rather obvious. The better story is in the losing locker room. It is squarely pointed, the bullseye, the city of brotherly love. Most games are lost. They're not won. And this is a textbook example. Case in point, Monday Night Football, it was in the green bag. The game was in the green bag. The Eagles had all of the pieces to complete the jigsaw puzzle. They were holding the final piece. It was a middle piece. They had the final piece to the jigsaw puzzle to get the victory, only to futz it away, and they dropped it down the garbage disposal, and it's gone. So in terms of who gets the biggest chunk of the blame cheesesteak, we're going to cut this thing up three ways. Now, a lot of low-information people say, it's only one person gets the entire blame cheesesteak. But no! I say no! It's deeper than that. We have Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, and Nick Sirianni. They each get a big chunk. Now, the biggest, we're going to start with a guy, I'm going to call him Candyman. Saquon Barkley is Candyman. You see, if you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. Butterfingers Barkley. Butterfingers Barkley. You had one job. Saquon. One job. And a reminder that you can take the player out of the Giants uniform. You can do that. You can take the player out of the Giants uniform, but you can't take the stank of that Giants uniform out of the player. Not easily, anyway. And this was proof. Barkley did the thing you can't do at the time you can't do it. A dramatic, game-changing play, a rudimentary, basic pass that running backs catch almost all of the time. It was right there. It wasn't a terrible pass. It wasn't over his head. It wasn't on the ground. It wasn't sideways. It was right there. Short pass, catch the ball, win the game. He didn't catch the ball, and the clock stopped because of that. 1:46 left. That forced the Eagles to settle for a field goal instead of the game-sealing first down, which would have ended things. Here is Mr. Barkley, Butterfingers Barkley, afterwards explaining that he is a dumbass.
Dropped the ball. Let my team down today. Shouldn't have put the defense in that position. Make that catch. Game's over. Relax. Went back to my old habits and just got to go back and get back to work.
Now, the problem is you're playing like you're still with the Giants. That's Giants football. That's Giants football. That's the New York Giants of modern times. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Iced the game, but did not. All right, next up, Jalen Hurts. Now, the Eagles' offense was too methodical for my taste. They were too methodical. Well, they were productive. Too methodical. Right? The object of the game is to score points. It's not playing keep away. Right? The Philadelphia Eagles offense, they should be much better than the Atlanta offense because of all the new players the Falcons have. But Philadelphia should have never been in position to lose the game late because you can't get it done late. That is on Jalen Hurts, who averaged 6.1 yards per pass in this game. Pedestrian, not elite, pedestrian performance. And then after Barkley had the brain fart, Butterfingers Barkley, dropping the pass, Hurts, he has a Tom Brady moment, right? You can go down the field, lead your team back to victory, pick up your teammate, Butterfingers Barkley, game-winning drive, end it, and he tosses a wounded duck with 3 Atlanta defenders around. It was really the only question is whether which Atlanta defender was going to pick off the pass. All 3 had a chance to pick off that wounded duck in that moment. Now, finally, you had Nick Sirianni, and the reason I'm going to bring Nick Sirianni on here is because of acid reflux. Okay, the Eagles coach, that was what we call a burp, a reminder of last season's collapse where the Eagles, if they had any real ownership, they would have fired Nick Sirianni. Why the guy's still there, I don't know. But Nick Sirianni made some questionable decisions in this game. Now, you'll hear the question and the answer on this one. We'll play some of it. I don't know that we're going to play all of it, but here's Nick Sirianni commenting on the decision. There was a third down decision. Let's take a listen to the audio. Here we go.
What's your thought process on the 3rd and 3 call on the pass? And on that play, is there a mechanism where Jalen just sits down, takes a sack?
You know, we wanted to. They were running a certain defense and junking it up in the middle. So we're trying to go around the outside, and you know, it didn't work.
What was your thought pattern there on going kicking the field goal? What do you think about going?
You know, again, in that scenario, I was thinking they might not have any timeouts there, but obviously they did with the incomplete pass. You know, that would have came down to maybe a minute, and so we wanted to go up 6 points. You know, and it didn't work. So, you know, the decision to pass it there, again, like I said, you know, they were junking it up inside with it being 4th and 3 to go for it. I thought. You know, with them not having any timeouts, I wanted them to be down a touchdown and see if they could drive the field, and they did.
All right, there you go. Nick Sirianni. Is there a better front-running coach in the NFL than Nick Sirianni? Is there? Is there anybody like you want? This guy's like a male cheerleader out there when his team's doing well, right? And when they're losing, he turtles up. That's Nick Sirianni right there. That's your head coach. That's the Eagles head coach. That's your leader of men. Now, page 2 here. Does the absence of wide receiver A.J. Brown, does that give the Eagles a reasonable excuse for this performance? And I'm shaking my head no on this. The answer is no. It's a pass-fail grading system when it comes to these games. Pass-fail. No excuses, so you get a fail. And Brown is a good wide receiver. You could say he's a top 10 wide receiver. I wouldn't disagree. I don't know about top 5, but he's very good. He's not the supernova, right? You're going to throw the ball to him 5 to 10 times. He'll catch 3 or 4, maybe 5 passes. Maybe one of them will go for a bunch of yardage. There's no guarantee he's going to score a touchdown. He doesn't score a touchdown every game. But in this particular night, the real bird brain, which has not been mentioned yet, goes to the Eagles as a team pivoting to cry uncle. As in Uncle Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator. Where have you gone, Vic Fangio? Shut down defense. Kirk Cousins looked absolutely cooked. He looked like a display case mannequin last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was weekend at Bernie's type stuff. And then Fangio's defense failing to keep him on his toes. The Eagles had just 2 quarterback hits against Atlanta's quarterback. Just 2, 1 sack on the night. There was very little pressure. The final drive by Atlanta against Vic Fangio's Eagles defense was the perfect encapsulation of the problem for the Birds defense here. Even with the Barkley fumble, which wasn't a fumble, he just dropped it, and then the interception by the quarterback, the Eagles played soft. That's not Philadelphia Eagles-style football. That's not in my lifetime, not recently. That's not how the Eagles have played defense. They played soft coverage. They had a non-existent pass rush, and they lost the game. There was a lot of things that could have masked that, and things didn't work out. Defense, they had to make a stop. At the end, they didn't make a stop. All right, now, last word here. We briefly go to the place where it's not as good a story, the winning locker room. And we asked the question for the esteemed panel, how impressed were you with Kirk Cousins and the Falcons? Well, considering that the game was in the bag for the Eagles, I wasn't all that impressed, right? And how clunky Cousins looked last week, it was stupefying that they had a chance to win this game. It really was. After a couple of punts to start the game, and I'm thinking early on, I'm like, all right, this is neither team got off to a great start, but the Atlanta offense, the first couple of possessions, are like, this is not going to go well for the Falcons. This game should be a rout or a root, depending on where you grew up. And to have that turn into what it became is rather mind-boggling when you think about it. The Falcons, after those first two drives went haywire because of the soft Vic Fangio defense, the Falcons scored either field goals or touchdowns on 5 of their final 6 real drives of the game. I don't count the last drive because they just downed the ball. That was it. But overall, Atlanta is certainly not out of the woods. They're not out of the woods here, and I consider this horseplay. This win is horseplay. Never look a gift horse in the mouth. You shouldn't do that. You should not look a gift horse in the mouth because the Dirty Birds were the beneficiary of a gift. Right? It's like the room service cart shows up at your hotel room and you get a nice meal. You didn't pay for the meal. You don't know who paid for the meal, but you get the meal. It was more incompetence by the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a 97% chance, Philadelphia, if you go by the nerd numbers, of winning the game. And so you accept the gift gracefully. Fine, you move on. But you look ahead, and Atlanta, under their new head coach, Raheem Morris, they have the Chiefs, the Saints, and the Buccaneers lined up. And good afternoon, good evening, and good night. All those 3 games in Georgia. But they at the Chiefs prime time, the Saints, and the Buccaneers. 2 of those 3 are night games in the ATL.